What Up Live, a Club Nokia is brought to you by the Nokia Astound.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Parrish. I'm here with Matt Leone and Jose Otero at the very tail end of E3 2011, and we're going to wrap up the show by talking about this year's Underdog games, the games that everyone overlooked but are actually worth everyone's time. So, Matt, why don't we start with you? What caught your eye that you think didn't catch anyone else's?
Well, I'd say the big thing is sound shapes. It's been definitely getting some buzz, but certainly it just doesn't have the budget. It doesn't have the marketing from Sony's side. So you go to Sony's booth and you'd probably miss it. It's essentially a 2D platformer. You play this little like gear that rolls around. It sticks to the ceiling or whatever you jump. And like, if the walls are a certain color, you'll stick to those walls. But the thing that makes it kind of different is that it's musical. So there's these icons that are equivalent of like a gold coin in a Sonic game or something like that, but they'll play music and note, kind of like in Rez. As you collect a lot of these, the song kind of emerges over the course of the game.
So when you say Rez, does it have that kind of like cool hip style to it?
It's got a very simple art style. It's not wireframe. It's not like futuristic, but it's, you know, lots of flat shades, like no high polygon, anything like that. Just very simple, kind of like almost Atari, but not to that level.
What about everyday shooter, like their last
Kind
game?
of. I mean, Everyday Shooter was more detailed than Sound Shapes is. Sound Shapes is much more plain. And, you know, it better for it, I think, because part of this game also is this music creator. So half of it's a platformer, half of it's like music creation. So you create levels of the platformer while creating songs at the same time.
Do you know who the developer on this is?
It's John Mack, the guy who made Everyday Shooter, and Queasy, his company. So
because it reminds me a lot in concept a bit of a Vib Ribbon by Nana Onsha from a long time ago, but kind of an evolved version of that.
Right, except it's more of like a platform where you have more control over what you're doing. So yeah, that's my number 2 game of the show behind BioShock. So even though not as many people are like putting it up for game of the show, just because it doesn't have the wow, like, hey, Battlefield cost $70 million to make or whatever, you know.
Jose, what's your top Underdog pick?
So my top 2, interesting enough, both have a lot to do with the first point you brought up, which is lack of marketing. I feel that Kirby Mass Attack, DSiWare downloadable Kirby game that uses motion controls, probably the first game since Canvas Curse, right? That came out in 2005. And it's really interesting because you control...
Well, when you say motion controls, you mean like a stylus,
I mean
right?
stylus control, yeah, that's right. Thank you for fixing that. And so you get 1 Kirby at the start of this demo, and the more fruit you eat, the more Kirby's, you fill a meter and you'll get another Kirby, and you get up to 10, and you're controlling this pack of pink little Kirbys through a level, eating creatures, solving puzzles, finding more fruit, trying to get high scores.
So it's kind of Kirby's Canvas Curse meets Loco Roco in a way.
In a way, yeah. You can lose like the other Kirbys that you get, and there are ways to save them and whatnot. But I feel that because it's a DSiWare, a DSiWare game, no one is paying attention to it because those games never get any sort of marketing.
Yeah.
My second choice is probably one of my favorite games, which is Rhythm Heaven is coming to the Wii, and I played it like the rest of the DS game that had come out with the stylus controls as well. And I had heard the original had buttons. This one uses button controls. It's a lot of fun. It's that same really charming, quirky art style with really fun sounding music, and you're just tapping along to the prompts that they give you. It looks great, and I just wonder, so Rhythm Heaven did get some kind of marketing because they had Beyonce on it. I just wonder, is this game going to get another like similar?
It's hard to say. I think that was one of those games that back in, the kind of the golden era of DS and Wii games that they had a lot of hope that would catch a general audience, and I don't know that it really did, but I'm happy that they're bringing this one to the US because the first game never came out in America, and it did have that simple button press style, and it was really easy to get into the rhythm and just tap, whereas the DS one you had to slide, and it wasn't as precise.
Well, the swipe is the thing a lot of people hated, yeah.
It just didn't work as well. So I'm with you. I think this one is a really great game, and I'm really happy it's coming.
Definitely worth people's time, yeah.
And as for myself, I guess my top pick would be one that is almost funny to think of as an underdog, Catherine from Atlas, because it's on everyone's lanyard. It's the placard that you get when, for media at least. Like everywhere you go, you see people with Catherine ads, but I don't know how many people have actually checked out the game. It's kind of off the show floor, and it's really a super niche game. I mean, it's a graphical adventure about a man's romantic dalliances that are played out as weird, nightmarish puzzles. Box puzzles and climbing, and it's a very strange, esoteric game, but it's also very kind of cool and just unique, and I appreciate that, and the fact that Atlas seems to be putting so much behind this very kind of off the beaten path sort of game. And I'm also, a fan of Ignition's El Shaddai, which has been shown for a while.
It's almost out.
Yeah, it's coming out soon. It has a really, really great art style. It's the same art director as Okami, and it's not quite that watercolor Japanese look, but it's still very. It has a very pastel color style, and it has a very minimalistic HUD for combat and very combo-driven action.
It's a rare case where a game that kind of out there gets the budget to match it.
Right.
It's kind of like Okami.
Yeah. And I hope it does better than Okami did. I don't know that it's necessarily any more accessible to an American audience. It's about
the Bible.
Yeah, like angels falling and doing stuff for Lucifer. And sometimes it's a brawler like God of War, and sometimes it's a platformer, very, very hard platformer.
It's so pretty to look at.
It's just amazing. A gorgeous game. And it's really fun and fluid to play too. It's not just a great looking game, it also plays really well. So that's one that I hope people check out, and it deserves a little love.
I guess I also call out Dragon's Crown. Even though it wasn't actually at the show, they announced it timed with the show, and there's a new trailer and stuff.
That one's also from Ignition, and it's from Vanillaware, and the lead artist is George Kamatani, who he actually worked on the Dungeons and Dragons games, the arcade games by Capcom, this is definitely like a spiritual successor to those, but really, really great looking animation, 2D art.
And remember the play cover he did? That was all kind of
the tentacle,
Apparently there was one created for this game that might be a little too risque that they can't actually put out there.
That's a man who's over the edge, but cool looking game anyway.
Yeah. See, I wonder now, I'd like to throw Little Deviants out there then, because I kind of feel like that's been written off as sort of a tech demo, and
So what do you like about it that people aren't saying? This is the game that uses all the Vita functions.
It uses a lot of functions on that thing. It uses AR functions, it uses touchscreen functions.
It uses all of them. Why do you call it out? Why do you like it more than most people?
I just feel like if it's something that comes with the system as a pack-in, it's a great, or if it's sold separately, it's just a great sort of mix of a lot of different styles of playing a game. And to write it off as tech demo without really seeing what it is just feels kind of unfair. Okay. I don't even know if it's going to be promoted as a separate. No one knows it's going to be promoted as a separate project. If it's going to be a pack-in instead.
So you see it kind of like a WarioWare game for your lack of attention span.
Yeah, just really quick mini games or different styles every time you play through. There are other levels that use the AR functions on it. So the camera, you're using it sort of like what's that game that shipped on the 3DS that you're kind of shooting at faces?
Face Raiders.
Face Raiders. Yeah, there's a mode that's just like that, but you're protecting these deviants from getting attacked by aliens instead. I mean, you look ridiculous playing it, but it's still really fun.
So it's the rise of nightmares of lineup?
Yeah, in some form. Well, you're rubbing the back of this thing while you're sitting there too, so.
I hope so.
All right, well, hopefully everyone has a chance to read up on those on the site.